Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. Monthly Report. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine.
Welcome back to the National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana Monthly Report, which is a free service to those that are blind, visually impaired, those that are print challenged, even those with certain forms of dyslexia, and individuals that are now, the service offers itself to individuals that are deaf blind. So it's a free service once again. It's sponsored through our Indiana State Library services. And once again, you can read over 460 newspapers, national newspapers, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we also have over 60 magazines that you can read, a plethora of magazines. A lot of people just love to read. And for the first time, blind citizens and those that are coping with visual impairments can now read newspapers and magazines, and also job listings, which is very paramount. And for our college students, they love to use this for research papers and documentation. So, blind citizens now have hands-on to a very essential service that's free to them to just to compromise print and read print once again. Florence, let's share a little bit about the magazines, would you?
Okay. We get so many people who subscribe to NFB Newsline, and they are always inquiring about what newspapers we have, what magazines we have, who have really been avid readers in the past, but because of vision loss or neuropathies or something like that, they don't have access to it, or they thought they didn't have access to it. And we have A or P. I start with that because there are a lot of seniors who need access to magazines. There's magazines on finance, computers, PC world, finance. Consumers Digest is also a good magazine as well. So there are so many magazines to choose from.
And with that, we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about some of the magazines and some of the publications that we have. And we also have our guest back, Dr. David Hall, and we'll be right back to share some more information about this very interesting guest. So stay tuned.
Thousands of Indiana residents feel isolated from the world due to vision problems. Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm blind. I read Stars and Stripes on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline.
I'm Danny Wayne Beamer, Program Manager of the Elder Blind Program at the Will Center in Terre Haute, Indiana. I introduce the NFB Newsline to seniors in 13 southwestern counties in Indiana. I also utilize the NFB Newsline for my radio station public affairs shows. The NFB Newsline. Experience it today.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
We want to welcome you back to the National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana Monthly Report. And today our guest is, and he's back, Dr. David Hall. Welcome to the show again, Dr. Hall.
Thanks, Lee.
And I just want to thank you once again for sharing so much information. And a lot of people that may not have viewed or heard the show last week, we do have you back. So let's talk a little bit about your condition. You haven't been blind all your life.
No.
And you expressed that you lost your sight. You started having a little bit more a heart attack down in Florida.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was.
You was on the beach on Thanksgiving, right?
I was visiting my daughter and my son-in-law. He was stationed in the Air Force at Destin, Florida, and we went down for Thanksgiving. And I don't want to say I had warnings, but I knew during my 2-mile walk that I was a little more winded the week before we went. And I could, so I just kind of wondered something. But then I got on the beach and it wasn't a lot of pain, but I completely couldn't breathe. I couldn't get back to my car. So we went to the local med check and they said, "Oh, you're having a heart attack. We're going to put you go straight to the hospital now." And so we went to the little hospital in Destin, Florida. And they tried to put a stent in, and they said, "This is beyond us. You're going to Pensacola." And again, I said this before, but if you're going to have a heart attack, have it in Florida, because all those doctors they do operations every day. And I had a 70-year-old great surgeon that I'm setting up upright and talking today because he did the bypass surgery on me, and that was a year and a half ago, Thanksgiving. That is something about the lack of oxygen, the flow of blood, that's triggered my eyesight problems. I had diabetes from the age of 40. That's in my family. So I had diabetic retinopathy before the heart attack. But that really triggered decline in my vision and glaucoma, which was a lot of pressure. I was having migraine headaches because of the glaucoma. And so I had a shunt put in my left eye here in Indianapolis, and that relieved the migraines that I was having. But it hurt the vision. I only had maybe a quarter of my left eye where I could see perfectly. The rest of it was black from putting that shunt in. And I had vision in my right eye. Well, then my right eye started to have glaucoma, higher pressures, loss of vision. And I wound up going up to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. Really, it was my boss paid for me to go to the Mayo Clinic. I was working for a company called Biotown up in Reynolds, Indiana. And his name's Brian Furr. It was a really nice thing of him to do. So I went up there to check my heart and everything else, and my eye, my pressure, the glaucoma pressure was really high, my right eye. They wanted to do immediate surgery. So on a Friday, they did the surgery to reduce the glaucoma pressure. Monday, I went back to the eye doctors there, and I could see better than I'd seen in 6 months on that Monday. But then Tuesday, I woke up and I was totally blind.
And you've been totally blind ever since?
I've been totally blind since last July. So I'm just a little less than a year totally blind.
A little less than a year. God bless you. Now, you had a lot of travel since then. You have a PhD, and what is that in?
I got my PhD in animal nutrition research with biochemistry and statistics as my minors. Went to the University of Illinois as a BS and really got to love research there. I was pretty much doing research while I was an undergrad. And this year was 1981 when I graduated from the University of Illinois. And I had a very smart grandmother because interest rates back then were 19%, spiraling out of control. And she said, "Don't come home to the family farm. Go do something for a couple years. Interest rates will come down. Then come back and we'll see what we can get you doing on the farm." Because we had cattle, hogs, and corn, soybean farms where I came from.
Okay, so
anyway, then I went to University of Kentucky on a scholarship for 2 years. I thought I was just going to get a master's, 2 years and come back. And I was if the guys from University of Kentucky ever get a hold of this, what I was offered was to be the research farm manager over all the livestock farms at University of Kentucky. And then with a house, a full paid position, and you get free education. Well, the guy that is the research manager, Jim Randolph, he never got his PhD. He's still there today with that gig because it's so good. And so my advisor, Dr. Cromwell, we got through 3 years. He goes, you know, have you thought about getting your PhD? And I said, well, I have been taking the classes. He goes, no, you've taken all the classes for your PhD. I think you should get a PhD. And that's how I got a PhD.
Now, you had a former life, and you know, very successful. Now you lost your sight, and you went to Bosma Enterprises.
Yes.
Once you lose your sight, explain to individuals how it impacted you to lose your sight, and how you overcome the trials to triumphs.
Well, so losing that. Again, I had a full-time job up in Reynolds, Indiana, and vision was what my boss thought was necessary for that job. So we basically, I stopped working there. I signed an agreement and got an umbrella out. But it was hard. I mean, I remember there was too many days on that couch and listening to TV and not knowing what I'm going to do. And my son got on the computer and found vocational rehab, and her name is Anita, and she was just a God's blessing to me. She got me signed up to go to Bosma on a grant, and for the blind, this is a grant that she gave me, and I've been there now going on 5 months. Learning to use the cane, learning to basically rehab of everything. Back to my computer, I know how to use a computer, get on any website. For the Newsline, I mentioned previously the Wall Street Journal. I listen to full-page Wall Street Journal every morning and have coffee on my computer. That's because of Bosma and Newsline. It's just getting back your life, you got to do it. Yeah, I mean, when you go blind, it's too easy to lay still and not get out of bed, not say I'm going to get up and tackle things. And Bosma's helped me do that.
Okay, and so David, prior to losing your sight, had you met anybody coping with blindness, or
No.
any family members, or?
My mother's grandfather went blind at the age of 60, and he lived to be 84. So he lived with his blindness a lot of years, but I never got to meet him. He was dead, gone before I was born. So I found that interesting that, you know, here's a goal of mine. I'm 59, and I have a family member that I was told he was blind. He lived on the farm and lived to be 84. Well, he did something for those 24 years. And was a farmer.
And so you
But
got
that's
over.
all I knew of the family. Nobody I've ever
Nobody
met
else.
was blind.
Okay, so you got over to Bosma Enterprises and were introduced to a lot of people coping with vision loss. So I know that was a eye-opener, no pun intended.
No, the clients that are there are visually either totally blind or I don't know what the right word is, but legally blind to call it. They've got maybe
We all
Couple
just
with
blind,
blindness.
you know.
Yeah.
Just
Blindness.
blind is
we just blind, and we're
Yeah.
just trying to navigate blindness, which Bosma does a great job. Now,
great job.
We want to talk a little bit about, you're a historian.
Yes.
And, you talk about blindness. You may have, lost your sight, but you still haven't lost your skills, and you haven't lost your mind, and you're continuing to do great things there at Bosma and within the community. You have a lot of aspirations. But we want to talk a little bit about something that you shared with us regarding some historical values regarding the Abraham Lincoln and the Civil Wars and your service to the country.
So I had gotten interested in genealogy and did the DNA testing, and I knew that in southern Indiana there's a play about Abraham Lincoln every summer. And that play mentions that Abraham Lincoln's boyhood friend was Squire Hall. Well, my grandfather was named for that Squire Hall that was Abraham Lincoln's boyhood friend in Indiana. And so I've always had a passion for Lincoln. I own more Lincoln books than anybody I know. And even now, I've used the talking audio books to read more about Lincoln. And I'm right now reading about Ulysses Grant. But Squire Hall, that was Abraham Lincoln's boyhood friend, they went into the Black Hawk War together as cavalry. And anybody that knows anything Lincoln, he was a horseman. He rode horses when his law degree. For all his clients in Illinois, he rode a horse everywhere. Well, Squire Hall went in the cavalry, and he became a spy. And when the Civil War broke out, he was a cavalry spy for the Union. And Lincoln, being boyhood friends, and I don't know how much communication, because what Lincoln did is he tore up everything that any Confederate could get his hands on about people's names, about spies. He never let anything come down in history. So how much there was between President Lincoln and my ancestor, I don't know. But the story, and I found this at the genealogy library in Salt Lake City. The Mormons have a fantastic library about genealogy, and it's just not about Mormons. It's about everybody in the United States. They've tracked lots and lots. And I ran across this one page that said Squire Hall was a Civil War spy, again for the Union, and his nickname the Confederates gave him was Devil Squire because he had given troop movements and caused a lot of problems for the Confederates. Well, this was on the West Virginia-Kentucky border. The Confederates went to Squire Hall's father's church. It was the Zion Baptist Church where he was a minister there. He was 92 years old, and they took him out, tortured him, said, we want to know where your son is. He's a spy for the Union, and we're going to kill him. And he wouldn't give him up, and they hung him.
Yeah. So at this point in time, as we move forward, you have family members that are in armed services now?
Yes, I have. My son-in-law is in the Air Force. He's a dentist in the Air Force, so he got the opportunity to go to the University of Illinois Dental School on the Air Force payment program where you do 4 years of service after they pay for your dentistry program. So it's a wonderful opportunity. And he's been a year in Destin, Florida. Now they're out in Montana. I have a 6-month-old grandson, which you want to find a reason to live, have a grandson. It's a wonderful thing. But yeah, so Captain Craig Brown is in the Air Force now. And because of his example, I have 4 children, and 2 girls and 2 boys. And my son, Jack, is trying to get into med school. He's waiting. He's on the alternate list right now to get in this fall. But he's straight A student, top 10% in the MCAT. And the Air Force has offered him a 4-year scholarship to go to med school, come out and be a medical in the Air Force for 4 years after. So I just, I want to thank the military especially. It's a wonderful thing for my family.
Okay. So we're going to take a pause, and we just want to thank you once again for coming on to our show. We have, this is going to be aired on the 4th. So just enjoy, what you're doing. Continue to do great things as you are doing, and we look forward to sharing with you in the relatively near future. Okay.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Florence.
Okay, and coin a new phrase, we might be out of sight, but we're not out of mind. So let that one soak in. And we'll be right back here shortly.
As I travel the nation, I read NFB Newsline.
I live in Valparaiso, Indiana, and I listen to my local news on NFB Newsline.
As a student, I enjoy reading current events on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
I am a blind vendor, and one of the things that I truly miss is reading Vending Times magazine.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
It is a fantastic service.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today. We want to welcome you back, and we just trust that you are enjoying your July 4th festivities. Today we have a very special guest that we interviewed, the retired Major Ivan Castro. And he's a blinded veteran, and he's doing a lot of great things throughout the country and around the world. And we just was overwhelmed with his interview and his thoughtfulness to come on to our show. So we want you to enjoy your holiday, but also remember the reason for the holiday and the veterans that have actually served this country and continue to serve our country, and keep them in your remembrance of this great day. So enjoy the interview with the retired Major Ivan Castro.
Well, Lee, thank you for having me on your program, and I'm excited to tell you about the campaign that is being launched across the U.S. And if I can, I'd like to tell you more about it. It's a campaign called There But Not There, and it's to honor and remember our men who were fallen in World War I. It's also there to educate and also to help heal the wounds of war of our current veterans. Throughout the U.S. And iconic locations, you'll be able to see 6-foot aluminum silhouettes in locations like the Golden Gate Bridge. Also at the Arc, the Gateway Arc in St. Louis, Times Square, Washington, D.C., and like at some memorials in front of the White House. And it's a cutout of a doughboy, which was what was the name given to American soldiers in World War I. The campaign is there also to help a number of military charities here in the U.S. and in the UK. And in order to help these charities, the Remembered nonprofit has a website called therebutnotthere.com, and there on that website we can learn some more information about this campaign. But also, most importantly, we want the public to support our veterans, and in doing so, you can purchase a 10-inch acrylic silhouette of a doughboy. That acrylic silhouette will, once you purchase it, will be mailed to you, and it has a beautiful packaging and a letter from Prince Harry, who's the patron of the Invictus Games, and as you will know, he's a big supporter of our military, not only in the UK, but also here in the US.
Okay. There but not there.
Therebutnotthere.com. And so I
that's
encourage
the web address?
Yep, that is the web address. And I do encourage all of our listeners and viewers to go to that website and support your veterans of today, and remember and honor those veterans. Our great grandfather from World War I and their sacrifice.
Well, that's a great campaign, because I too am a veteran. I'm a Vietnam veteran.
Well, thank you for your service, sir.
No, thank you for your service, because you're a Purple Heart recipient, and I hold you high esteem.
Well,
so thank you, and I thank you for pushing forward. And I'm glad that this show is able to convey to our viewers and listeners that the campaign that you're promoting right now.
Well, thank you so much.
And we encourage our viewers to, go to the website. And would you give that website again, please?
That website is therebutnotthere.com. And as you well know, after World War II, the Paralympics spun up from injured service members. And not everybody can make it to the Paralympics. But Prince Harry has started the Invictus Games, and it brings 13 international nations to these games, and it's amazing to see the camaraderie, the resilience, just our men and women, military men and women, just overcoming adversity and obstacles to compete, and the pride that is shown for your nation at these games, and just how the life-changing impact that it has on these men and women that compete in the games, but also to the family and the children of these service members.
Now, Major Castro, is there an age for these games, age limit?
There is not an age. You just have to be an injured, wounded, or sick service member. But Lee, I'd like to thank you once again. I encourage you to go to the website, therebutnotthere.com. Thank you for having me.
Okay, well, thank you for coming on, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
The National Federation of the Blind Indiana Monthly Report. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.